think I'm allergic to technical stuff because I was getting itchy. It's just too much technical information, man. What I think we should do is, so far, any other questions that you thought about or anything? Always just raise your hand if you want to interject, because this should be guided towards what you guys need. Just by a show of hands, just so I see, pretty much everybody here has been shooting either commercials or music videos, or everybody, right? Is there everybody is going to raise their hand? Everybody's shooting something? Yeah, pretty much? Okay, so we're going to light, you've sort of seen what we did, but we're turning lights off here so that we go step by step, and then we explain why we're doing what we're doing, and it'll be fun. And as you're going, if a question comes up, we're going to try to later do some fun things with the movement. But first, let's just do a little bit of nighttime lighting, and I can take you through some of the things that we've done so far. Anything else you want to hear about from the LUTs? I want to say that after the wedding, we couldn't afford the likes of, the best in the world DITs, or not even a cheap DIT. No DIT. So I committed to pretending like I was shooting film. And I said, I'm going to print at a one light print in my mind, and I'm going to teach somebody on the camera crew to watch the exposure oscillate. What do you call it? The
waveform.
Yeah. The waveform. And if I'm out of whack, tell me, And so I pretty much shot everything, and exposure through the eyepiece, and then keeping it with a LUT that we developed on the test day, very important. And then, I will fix whatever I can afterwards, if I'm, and only a couple of shots, there was where you drop the light and all of a sudden you raise the ASA of the camera just to stay in the shot. I think I brought the ASA to 3600, something like that, which is a lot to ask of the camera, and retain your blacks black. And only one of those shots, and also the nighttime drone shots with the fireworks going in the foreground, that was also a little underexposed, and I had to get back blackness in the DI. I had to crunch it and get rid of the noise as much as possible. But that's when you're underexposing, and that's the danger really of not having a person watching the technical side of it. But it's a great practice to have one LUT. Maybe one LUT for inside and one LUT for outside. That's a nice way to go, right? So that something, your exteriors are going to have a common feel to it. And, and it's what I call people who have, 25 LUTs and there's a lot of DPs who dial up different things for every shot. They kind of end up with a fruit salad sometimes. And it's later, it's hard to put all these things together to have a flow, to have a feeling, The blacks are too black in one thing, the colors are too vibrant in one thing. So anyway, we'll move forward, yeah? Okay. So let me introduce you to my gaffer here. I think we talked before, and why don't we start by lighting the back is already, the backing is done? So we have these Roscoe backings, which are dual. They can be used in daytime when you light them from the front, and later we're going to do a daytime scene. And if you backlight it from the back, then it's a nighttime scene of the same place. I think, in my opinion, your backings should be subtle. The worst thing is when, you look at something and it really looks fake. It's usually a backing that's very old and it doesn't look very good. And sometimes you can't throw it out of focus enough. So one really good trick, which we're not doing right now, but you should know, is that you can put a net between the backing and your window. And if it's daytime, there's white netting that's sort of like a one-stop net. It's called babinette or white nets. And at nighttime, you can use a black net. And usually at nighttime, you want something that's half a stop. So a half a stop net works really nice. Right now, because we're keeping the background pretty subtle, there's no netting there. We're going to use some netting when we do the daytime stuff. And then we're going to make the backing much more enhanced. So I like to start lighting from back to front, knowing that my key light and whatever I'm lighting in the foreground is going to come from one direction or the other. So here's a question for you. If you have the chance, if you have the choice of lighting someone from one side or the other side, what should be your determining factor as to what side you pick to light from? Anybody have an idea? If you can go either way? I'm sorry? Yeah, there's a better reason than that. That could be a reason. And there's always different reasons why you do things. But I've seen very few people watch a rehearsal and see what the performance is actually going to be like before they decide whether they're going to light from one side or the other. And the classic example is if someone's sitting down, like this gentleman sitting down, and, if the camera's at this angle, okay, and if he's going to turn and look in one direction, if I have the opportunity to light from either side, I'm going to want to have my key light towards the direction that he's looking in. And this is why it makes sense. You've seen in the old-fashioned movies, when people are talking to each other, and in a classic fashion, if two people are standing next to each other, you have a light coming here, edging this person, and to the person here, you have the light over there. There's a reason for that. And the reason is that when you do your close-ups, the people are looking towards the direction of where the light is coming from, which is nice. It's classic lighting, but it's a choice that you should make if you want to light in a classic fashion, or you should not make if you want to light in a more dramatic, less comfortable, fuller way. When you're lighting females, for example, it just works out a whole lot better to have the key light being placed towards the look of where she's looking at, towards the actor. So that's a little something for you to take. So let's go ahead and push the camera forward. Let's go into a close-up, and let's go ahead and.
Did we get rid of the light on the screen because the screen is?
Oh yes, if we can. Let's go ahead and turn our key light on, and the reason we picked that angle was for two reasons, actually. Just so you know, we did a little fishing with this handheld unit here, which I love, and we looked around and looked at what light looked good on this gentleman. So we picked that angle, and it happened that there's an open door, so I was able to bring the key light further back, which is a really good thing. Whenever you have the option to bring your key light further back, what you gain is that as the light comes into your set, it spreads very evenly in the set. The further the light is, the more even that the light will be from here, say, to here, and feel much more natural. We're also canceling half of this light because if we open this side here, then it makes this area too bright, and he's overlit anyway. So we made the key light a little brighter so that we could take that away. And that's something that I didn't learn until much further in my career, that you could if you had the ability to take either a fill light or your key light further away, it's much more natural. And then when people are walking through it, they don't burn up as they're getting closer to the light. It's just the mechanics of lighting, right? The opposite of that, which is also good to know, is that, for example, if you have a small chimera and you want it to light a face, but you want the person to go dark right away after, the closer that you get the light to the subject, the quicker it drops off into the set. So oftentimes, you don't have to cut a light as much if you get it close to your subject, if you're able to do it. That's sort of the reverse law of having a light far away that's even. Having a light close drops off nice and fast. So that comes in very handy when you don't want to light a wall. You want to light a person, but you don't want that light to go very much on the wall. Also highly recommended are those louvers that are on the chimeras, because they cancel a lot of the light that's going to the sides. And the hardest job on a set is to be cutting light, and it takes time. And there are some tricks for cutting light that are wonderful. For example, when you let's say that later we're going to light this for days. If you had sunlight, if this was a real house, and if you had sunlight coming in through the window and hitting the ground, it would make this beautiful effect of low light that's bouncing off the ground and coming up. And it's a lovely light because it usually fills in under the eyes, and it looks natural because it feels like sunlight that's skimming off the ground and coming up. But the biggest problem with that light is that usually there's a white ceiling. So the same light that's bouncing off the ground is bouncing in the ceiling and then canceling that beautiful effect of the beam. Maybe you have a little atmosphere and you're trying to get a shaft of light going. So the trick is to take black tablecloth that's almost nylon, very lightweight paper, and you can pin it up with pins, and just put it anywhere in the ceiling that you're not seeing. And it's a quick way to do it. And then you're canceling all of that bounce light going up to the ceiling that's killing the effect down below. So that's a fun trick that will make your beams of light work more power, seem stronger because they're not being negated by the extra light that's bouncing around. All right. So we're here on a close-up, okay? There it is. And it's a little tight. Why don't we back up a couple of inches? It's a little snug. It looks a little claustrophobic. And
I just wanted to ask very briefly, is there a reason why you're at 200? I'm over here to your right. Julio? Yeah. I was just wanted to ask if there's a reason why you're at 210 degrees on the shutter rather than...
Yes. There is, yeah. We changed the shutter because those Christmas lights are not my favorite. They're not the Christmas lights we used to have on Home Alone, okay? Where you could put them on a dimmer and you could put them on a thing called a variac that raises the voltage to a little more than it's supposed to be, so you get a nice hot little kick from those lights. With the LED wonderful lighting that's out here now, it's not as good for the Christmas tree. Yeah, so that was important. When I showed you the after the wedding clip, we really had to find the right shutter so that all those Christmas lights weren't buzzing. But there's usually one shutter that will. And so what shutter angle?
Oh, it'll be 210 is what it's going to be at. Is going to be the
so a shutter angle.
Yesterday.
So if you go from a shutter angle of 180 to 210, what nice little thing happens aside from changing the shutter? What do you gain? The opposite. The opposite. You gain some stop. Cool. So sometimes if you need an extra quarter of a stop and you don't have it, you can go to a 200-degree shutter. Am I right, Gunnar? You are correct. Okay, good. I'm not technical, but I know some stuff. Okay, so so dial, that's the beauty of having someone watching over your shoulder when they see that there's an issue. You know, it happens with clocks, it happens with Christmas lights, and these are not my favorite lights, but they do have a nice bouquet out of focus, right? It's looking nice. So let's now turn on the overhead. We have a little bit of fill light because this is feeling kind of dramatic, and you know, even though the guy's handsome, it looks a little suicidal at the moment. So we're gonna just add a little bit of room tone. This is what we call room tone. When you have the chimeras up above, it's got a nice skirt in the back, so it's not spilling too much on the walls. It's spilling a little bit, but it's natural. It feels like lights are on in the room. And now, as you can see, there's a little definition on the top of his hair, and it doesn't look like a backlight, which normally at nighttime, backlights just look phony. If not, look at every movie that our friend Roger Deakins shoots. He hates backlight, right? So he separates things, or he has a little room tone that separates. Or right now, we're also, you know, lighting with separation behind his dark side. There's a little bit. That's why those curtains are a little brighter than normally they should be, is because I wanted to get some separation from him without having a backlight on him. If you don't have that, and if, for example, if the background would be something dark, then you have dark on dark. The king of depth and creating depth with what we had was a cameraman named Conrad Hall, who you guys should know. And, you know, before you start any movie, I highly recommend that you watch movies like Road to Perdition or Searching for Bobby Fischer, or the list goes on and on. But the mastery of this gentleman was that sometimes all you would have to do is move the camera just 1 inch to the right, and things would line up in a different way. So that you would line up something that's dark with something that's light behind it. And it makes all the difference in the world. And all it took is to just move the camera a tiny bit. So remember that to create depth. And whenever possible, you know, you want to have a lit element, whether it's a wall or whether it's a Christmas tree or something behind the dark side. That's basic photography, right? Separation, you gain it by light, dark, light, dark. So that's the reason we did that. We also now should put a little bit of fill light on the front of the face. So always save the fill light until the last thing you do, because there's nothing worse than not modeling a face properly and you know, overpowering the effect. So it's subtle, but it rounds up the light. Now, pan it away again, Bernhard. So you see how it's a subtle thing. It's on the cool side. To me, lights are more invisible when they're on the cool side. You know, somehow it registers as ambient light, moonlight, or whatever, and it doesn't feel like a light, like you added something else. So I often do fill light on the cool side. This is probably like quarter blue from tungsten. Color temperature would be something like 3800 or something like that on that light. We did that on purpose so that it would wrap around. It feels similar to the direction of the key light. So let's go ahead and back the dolly up, guys. Let's see more of the set so that we see what else we're lighting. Interesting things are happening. We have the reflections of the Christmas lights on the glass are also interesting. It gives you the sense of depth, like there's other stuff going on outside, even though it's just reflections from the inside. And we're being very careful with the backing not to overlight it, because it's much more preferable to imply that something is going on outside. If this was real life, there wouldn't be a lot of lighting going on out there. the biggest mistake is to have it be too much. You want to just imply that it's happening. The reason we have that cool, the blue little lights on the camera right side of him is because I wanted to do two things. I wanted to create, let's see, we're as far back as we go, right? Hey, pan left a little bit. Let me see this wall here. This is something that looks like a mistake, but it's not. We're actually doing that. This is sort of a window feel. Bernhard, is this something we can turn on and off? Okay, when you get to it, just turn it off and then you can see. If this was a real situation, you would have things happening outside of the house that might create something like that. There was a movie called Sliver that just had the best reflections of windows on walls. And it's a subtle thing, but you see, there it is. There it's off, and then it's on. Off, yeah, that's on, and off, right? So there it's off, okay, and go ahead. Okay, so it has the feeling of moonlight. It's a light that's got 3/4 blue on it. So color temperature wise, that would be somewhere around 4,000 to maybe 4,500, something like that. So we have another toy working, which is sort of subtle. And I love doing things that are subtle, where you can maybe see that it's happening or not happening. It leaves it up to the imagination. But Roscoe brought over a little projector that has some movement to it. It's like a projector with a moving pattern. And we put it on the back of these windows here. So believe it or not, there's a little bit of movement there that if we spent more time and finessed it more, would feel like maybe it was snowing outside and maybe there's some movement that's hard to see. But is that something, can we put our hand in front of the projector and show the difference? No? Yeah, so there it's off, right? And there it's on. So it's got a nice feel to it. It feels like moonlight. And there it's all the way off. And there it's on. So it's subtle, but it makes you feel like moonlight outside. And that was a little trick that I thought would be nice to just play with. Again, the houses in the back, for me, might be slightly bright. But, and if you wanted to really finesse the backing, and if it was an important shot that you're going to be on it for a long time, you could get little practicals, miniature practicals, and put them on the house, you know, like their street lamp, you know, not like their lamps that are on the house. We've done that a lot, where you take a tiny little light. We've done that a lot with buildings. And you can also do it with a laser pointer. You can put a laser pointer, turn it on, put it on a stand, and it'll shine a light on top of a building and make it look like New York City, you know, and you can flick it on and off, on and off, on and off. And then all of a sudden you have something that feels organic. On Home Alone, we also did a fun thing, and it was a window like this, and we got a miniature plane. We put it on a string, and the little plane went up, and with a sound effect, it looked totally real. Yes?
There's some kind of flickering on that burner. Is that from the projector?
Yeah, that's the movement from the projector. So some people call it flickering, some people call it snow. You know, it depends what you're smoking. You know, but now everybody wants to buy a Roscoe projector and take it home. Awesome. Okay. So let's see. Let's now do one other light. I wanted to get some definition on this wall. Let's do a little downlight on the. We've got the. Let's go ahead and see. Pan right to the fire effect situation there. So we did, okay, stop there. So we did 2 lights here that turned something that right now feels dead. So if you could do an on and off on that. See, without it, it's kind of dead. And the brick is muddy and mush. So let's go ahead and turn it on, please. And that, you get some nice highlights, you get the socks a little bit, it's better. Can we do the fire effect? So I'm just gonna show you the effect. We couldn't afford to have a fire person here and real fire. Plus, I've been known to burn down sets before, so. My first music video, actually, you gotta hear the story. It's, I've got a 16 millimeter camera. This was in the 80s when anything was possible. And so there's this band called Hall & Oates, and it's my first music video. I got my camera, and my lighting package was one sun gun with a belt, you know, and this shitty old light, sorry. So I wanted to shoot the band in the bus. So I put the sun gun, I figured, oh, here's where the baggage goes in the bus. A perfect place to wedge, you know, put the battery, and I wedge the sun gun in there. And I turn it on, and, you know, I'm talking to the guys, and next thing you know, the bus catches on fire. And so I grabbed my camera, oh my God, and I didn't go to turn the thing off. I ran with my camera. And I went outside the bus, and then the band ran out of the bus with the smoke coming behind them. And of course, it's in the video, and they loved it after. So don't burn anything down. So rather than, you see, you feel fire now. You feel the effect of the fire. We really should have a fire, but since we don't, we decided to do a fire effect. We're using one of these sky panels, S30, yeah? And it's got a gadget on it that it can do like a fire effect. How cool is that? And what we did is, because we're old fashioned, we added gel to it. Even though it says, you know, you can dial any color. No, just give me a white light. I want to know what I'm doing. So we added, like the equivalent of like double straw. I think we have, the light is on the warm side. We dial the light to about 2400 or something. And then, yeah, and then we added another full CTS. We added another half CTS to make it feel like, you know, real fire. And it does have the color of fire. So there's that. Now let's, what else can we light here? We got that. Oh, let's light the sconces on the wall, because the walls look ugly. So we've got sconces on the wall and we have practicals. Let's go ahead and turn everything on. We're getting bored with this lighting setup. Walls are the toughest thing to deal with because, you know, they're flat, and unless they have something nice on them. The best way to light a wall, if you have to, is to take a light that, let's say my camera was here, and I'm looking in that direction, and I had to get definition on the wall. I would take a source 4 light, a very, very strong and concentrated area light, and I would put it right at the edge of the wall here. Hopefully there wouldn't be, you know, that mess in the way. If I'm here, there's no light at all on the wall. If I'm here, all of a sudden, the wall looks interesting. It's got definition to it. If there's any kind of wainscoting or any kind of detail on the wall, it looks interesting because there's a hot light that's coming across it. And usually combined with a skip bounce light, it feels very organic. It's a nice way to light a wall to where it isn't just light bashing it. So if you're stuck having to light something that's a flat wall, think about skip bouncing a light and see what happens. So while he's gonna heat up that light, Any other thoughts of you guys? Whoa, let me tell you about this. I've never used this camera. This is the LF camera. It's sort of the idea of two sensors kind of coming together into a large format. Interesting thing about it is that now all these lenses that we knew are different. They have different numbers because the area is different, right? So where we used to know what a 40 millimeter would do, now we have to kind of translate it. Now it's somewhere between, a 60 or 70, something like that. And so it's a discovery process, like anybody else. If you're going to use this camera, it's going to be wonderful because of the resolution. I got to work with the Alexa 65, but also requiring a lot more data wrangling and the expense of it, and the fact that you have a mini available for it. I think it's a really good, interesting option. So these lenses, we're getting used to them, but on a basic level, I think that the beauty of these lenses is that in the large format, it's almost like cheating. Like you have the qualities of a close-up lens in a wide-angle lens. You have that in the foreground, millimeters like the 35 is a very interesting millimeter. I was looking at it, and you could frame something that doesn't have distortion, that feels like a spherical 27 millimeter lens or 28 millimeter lens, which is a lovely lens because it's very personal. You come in and you can frame up, a two-shot or a single that's very personal. And your background can feel like it's an 18 millimeter spherical lens. So that's wonderful and applicable to, to some, to the right story. We're always trying to pick equipment and lenses that help us tell a story. And if that fits into your storyline, and if you have certainly some wide-angle shots and some landscape shots, it could be a really nice option to have. I'm really looking forward to trying this camera out. Also, the idea that it's an Alexa and it's something that I'm used to. A lot of people shift equipment around and they have this whole set of equipment, cameras for one project, and then they go to another project and they shift cameras, shift lenses. That's a lot of variables. Think about it. If you're playing music and and you're trying to finesse something, it's kind of nice to have an instrument that that you feel confident with, that that if you do this and this, you get that. You can always push it. But I'm not a big fan of having too many variables within the world of equipment, right? So is this something you want to do? Yeah. So we can just pull this out a little bit. And so we did all this to show you how to light a wall. I hope you appreciate it. Go ahead. Yeah. So, and just put your hand in front of it so you see it on and off. So put your hand on, so there's kind of a dead wall, right? Pan right, please. Yeah, let's see the wall. All the way to the edge there, even, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Why don't we dolly forward so you can get around that light? Yeah, push forward and just get to the other side of the light. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, now make a nice shot about a wall. This will go on my reel, it'll be great. Tilt down, 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 down. Tilt down to the couch there, right? All the way to the couch. Okay, pan right a little more. Okay, so here's a boring wall. And go ahead, open it. Pan, yeah? So now at least you have some definition. You know, you have, even though it's kind of on the flat angle, but and go ahead and tilt it down a little bit so we waste some of that light. If you tilt it down, the light itself, just tilt it so that we waste some of it. Yeah, keep tilting, keep tilting. Down, down, down. And then pan left a little bit. Okay, hold that. Oh, yeah, let it leak on the other. Yeah, just that sliver. Okay. Okay, cool. So, you know, and then put your hand in front of it. So there's an ugly corner that is horrible, but maybe you're forced to shoot that corner because something's happening there. And then go ahead and release. Yeah, and now it's something. You have some definition. You have something that feels like it's coming from another room or something. And anyway, I think it was worth it.